Hey guys, Prithviraj here. Hope you guys are doing great. Today we are taking another look at another monitor. This is the ASUS TUF Gaming VG279. I'm gonna call it the ASUS TUF Gaming 27-inch monitor from here on. But anyway, the reason why we decided to take a closer look at this particular monitor, in fact review this monitor, is because the demand for monitors is increasing. And if you were to go to Shopee or Lazada, you can definitely tell the amount of monitors that's out of stock is just crazy. And finding a value for money monitor is even harder, like this one, because this monitor, every single time whenever we go to a e-commerce site, it's almost always out of stock. So why exactly are we doing this review? That's a very good question for my own self, and I'm here to answer that. So we're gonna jump right into this video, so let's not waste any time. And you're watching The Adventures of Vesper. Let's begin. Okay, over here we have the ASUS TUF Gaming VG279 gaming monitor. Now I'm going to just call the 27-inch monitor because the name is already long. Before we get into the pros and cons of this monitor and if you should get it, we're going to talk about the general thing about this monitor, how exactly the design is, like how compatible it is and so on. Now on the front you have a 27-inch Full HD IPS panel that really covers beautifully with the thin bezel, so you don't have any distracting design on the front, and the undertone look definitely suits pretty much any desk in any kind of home, be it in a gaming room or a non-gaming room. And speaking of stands, generally gaming monitors do have this really flashy stand, but this time around ASUS has went for a very simple looking stand that is very practical, because this particular monitor does the four-way ergonomic movement, so which means you can tilt it up and down, you can rotate it whichever way you want, and you can tilt it side by side as well. So the versatility is key here, and you don't really need a Vesper mount or something to get that experience. Thanks to the stand that already comes pre-attached, it already offers all sorts of features for you to adjust the monitor whichever way you want. And obviously if you do want to attach to a Vesper mount, you can do so because it does support it. And on the back we have ports for you to connect your desired display to get an output. So this monitor has 3 display outputs, so it has 2 HDMI 2.0 and 1 DisplayPort 1.2, and you do have a headphone bypass port, so it does have a headphone jack on the back, and you get a DC barrel port for you to power up this monitor. As for the control, you do have the joystick control on the right side, which is really easy to use, and you have a bunch of quick settings button for you to toggle the quick settings and adjust the monitor according to the use case scenario. Now, all of that out of the way, we're going to jump right into the pros and cons of this monitor, and we're going to start off with the display. Now, the Full HD display is a really nice display to have, especially when you're in the 24.5 or at most 27-inch display, and it's really hard to come by a Quad HD display at this price tag. Even if you do, it does come with a lot of compromises, so ASUS decided to go for a 27-inch Full HD display that offers really good color accuracy and also really good gaming performance. So let me talk about the color accuracy. Now, if this particular standard really does matter to you, then good, because this monitor is Vesper certified for DisplayHDR 400, which is essentially the entry to the whole DisplayHDR 400 certification. It doesn't mean anything to us, but the whole idea is that this particular display is supposed to have better color accuracy and a better performance all in all. And in that case, it definitely gets the ground covered because it does reach the more than 90% in the sRGB color gamut color support. Viewing angles are fantastic because obviously it's an IPS panel with the anti-glare coating on the front. It's really nice to use, especially when you have harsh light, and it is a really nice display to look at. Unfortunately, there's always the battle of going for glossy finish and matte finish displays for color accuracy, but for the most part I don't think that's going to be an issue right here, so much so to a point that anti-glare displays are really good, and these days the color accuracy with a glossy finish display and an anti-glare display is more or less the same with very minor difference. Now the display, the color accuracy, all of that good stuff is out of the way. Now we're gonna talk about the gaming experience. I'm gonna tell you the price. This monitor is priced at 1,500 ringgit, and the reason why this monitor is always out of stock because this monitor supports 280 Hertz overclocked. So when you do connect to a G-Sync GPU, or as an NVIDIA GPU, you can get this monitor up and running because of the G-Sync support, and it can be overclocked up to 280 Hertz. By default, you do get 1080p with 240, and once you do hook it up and turn on the overdrive mode, you can bring it up to 280 Hertz. And the response time is 1 millisecond, so it's super low. Now, I'm the kind of person who thinks 144 Hertz display is more than enough. But that's a good reason, because here's why. 144 Hertz displays are actually good enough for a lot of people, most majority of people out there who do enjoy casual gaming experience. Now the higher refresh displays offers really good advantage only for people who take first-person shooting games seriously. Like say for instance, this monitor is kind of like the dream monitor for somebody who plays esports for much more faster response rate and for a better coordination. So say if they were to play games like Counter-Strike, PUBG or so on, they could really look at these kind of higher refresh rate, and it does add a really good advantage to the gaming in order to point out the opponent team and take them out. So this is where the display does excel. But for a normal gamer myself who does spend decent amount of gaming, I did enjoy using this display. For the most part, we did try Doom Eternal because Doom Eternal does support all of that, like high refresh rate and so on. The buttery smooth display is definitely something you cannot stop taking your eyes on. It's one to look at and one to experience. Once you do experience it, you can never go back to a lower refresh rate. And as for games like Horizon Zero Dawn, which I did play in this monitor, and there are other few titles that I did try like Godfall and so on, the experience was pretty great, and thanks to the G-Sync bake right into it, and one of the very few monitors to have G-Sync bake right into it at this price level, it definitely takes the cake. Also, ASUS already have a lot of their proprietary technology going under the hood. So they have the shadow boost, then they have the ELMB syncs. Basically, the ELMB sync is it's to reduce the blur and give a sharper image, which it does do a good job, but you really have to notice it in games, and sometimes the sharpness can be a little too sharp, so you can tone it down and see how it fits your gaming needs. And the shadow boost does allow you to see like objects in the darker area. So say if you're playing games like Evil Within, where you have to scout around and look in the darks for your parts and so on, so in those cases you can actually see some of those corner and not miss any of those loots, so that you can reload and kill the monsters and the ghosts in no time. Okay, now those are all the positive stuff, and okay, I'm gonna mention it again. Definitely the stand deserves the attention, because every single time when I come across a gaming monitor, when the stand isn't versatile enough, I get really annoyed. This is the only monitor that I really loved. So when I wanted to use it in a portrait mode, like to have this kind of musical vibe and so on, so I did set this monitor in a portrait mode behind these RGB lights, and I set the speakers, so every time when I switch my Spotify music, it looks like it's kind of in a vibe mode of sorts. I can show you the picture, and the monitor did work very well, and even using it in portrait mode just in one turn is really nice to have. And getting work done, even in fact editing some pictures on Lightroom Classic was really nice to use. For the most part, I really didn't have any sort of complaints, because for a user myself who does rely mostly on gaming and production, this monitor did really hit all the checklists that I always had. Even if it didn't have G-Sync, I would still be fine, because the panel that they went for is still great. The IPS panel is all I need. And given the fact that we already have gaming monitors with IPS panel that can go up to 280 Hz, reaching for a TN or a VA panel in the market, unless if you have a tight budget, then that's a totally different story, which is completely acceptable. Okay, now I do have cons with this monitor, and it's particularly two. Number one is ASUS going for a full HD panel. Now, let me be honest, anything way past 27 inch, it's really not nice to look in full HD. And when you notice the obvious pixels, you would realize that the 1080p monitors don't do justice, especially 27 inch and above. Now, good thing is that you can see this video right here, and you can really tell that the pixels aren't obvious for a full HD panel. But say if they did include it in a quad HD panel, like a 1440p panel, that would have been really nice. And I think gaming in 1440p is becoming more of a thing. It's definitely becoming the 1080p of today and tomorrow. And in those cases, that would be nice. But having a full HD panel and at this refresh rate, obviously if you were to connect it in any kind of GPU, it's going to work without breaking a sweat. So that's a nice thing. So it's more or less like a you win some, you lose some kind of situation. So if the 1080p panel irks you, then probably you would have to fork out a little more to go for the quad HD panel, which is I think priced a little higher. But nonetheless, if you are fine with the full HD factor, then this is alright. For me, I would prefer spending the extra buck and going for the quad HD. Now, number two is the lack of USB ports. Now, this is really important for me because I do connect it to my PC, and my PC is all the way at another corner. And if I want to have like quick access USB ports on the monitor for me to connect my USB drives, my SD cards, my micro SD cards, for me to export and import video easily into my system, is something that I really want. And unfortunately, it does not have the USB port baked right into this monitor. Kind of a sad thing to see, but they could have included it. But I do wish if there is an upcoming generation of this particular monitor that's coming out anytime soon, I would love to see some USB ports on it, because there are some of the monitors in the market that does have USB ports, and I do wish this was one of them. Now we're going to compare it with 3 other models in the price range, but we're not going to mention the name, but you just will get an idea. So starting from this S brand, they have this monitor called G5, which is priced at 1,500 ringgit. Now it comes in a 27 inch, that's great. It uses a quad HD panel, that's great. And it has 144 Hz refresh rate, which is definitely lower than the 280, which this VG279 is rated at. And the response time is a bit meh. And you get AMD FreeSync instead of G-Sync. And also remember that Quad HD panel is VA and not IPS, so it's not really ideal for professional work if you do want to do it, and for gaming. So it's more like a gaming only monitor. The second one is from this brand A that has this X27-UP, which is also priced at 1,500 ringgit. Now it does hit a lot of really good checkboxes, by the way. It has a 27 inch monitor, it comes in Quad HD and has an IPS panel, but unfortunately it only comes in 144 Hz. It supports FreeSync instead, and that's kind of the downside of that particular monitor. And finally, we have brand M, which has this MAG 25RX. So this is also another monitor that's priced at 1,500 ringgit, but it is an IPS panel. It comes with 240 Hz refresh and 1 millisecond response time. It has USB port, but unfortunately, it is a 24 inch panel and it runs at full HD. So, and not to forget, they do have exclusive features that's baked right under the hood that does work. So this is the ASUS TUF Gaming VG279 monitor. It's a good gaming monitor. It's definitely a really good 1,500 ringgit monitor if you're looking for one. And if you do see this monitor in stock, hit that buy button and check out as fast as possible. Because trust me, I think even by now, there are very few units that you can find on Shopee or Lazada. If you're lucky, you can find them. If not, then you will have to wait for a longer period of time. So yeah, that's basically it. That's all we have to say about this monitor. If you really want to read about this ASUS VG279, you can always head over to the link down in the description below where we wrote an article about this monitor. So if you want to check out any other content, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We have other interesting content coming out real soon. And if you're looking out for a very niche monitor, we did a review on a conference monitor recently from Dell, so you can check that out in the link down in the description below. That's basically it. Huge thanks to ASUS Malaysia for sending this monitor, for making this content happen. And we will check you guys out real soon. Until then, this is Prithviraj signing off. Take care, and I'll see you guys real soon. Bye.